Hey guys, welcome to my very first video for the YouTube channel Landmine Lee. And in this video we're going to be looking at the French Foreign Legion. So we're going to be looking at when the French Foreign Legion first was formed, looking at some of the battles they were in, and maybe look at a couple of little independent soldier stories that stuck out of the French Foreign Legion. So let's check that out. Thank you. So the game that I'm playing here is a game on the PC called Verdun, and it's a multiplayer game. It's a first-person shooter, but it is pretty good. It does recreate that World War One realism, or as much as realism as you can get out of a PC game at the moment. Because you've got games like Battlefield 1, which is a World War One online shooter, but it's very arcadey, and it doesn't really compare to games like Verdun. So if you want a World War One realism game, Verdun is one of those I would recommend. Okay, so let's get into some of the first points of the French Foreign Legion. So basically, the unit is it's obviously, the name gives it away. It's the French Foreign Legion, so they're a unit which is French, basically. But it's run by French officers, but all the soldiers are foreigners. Some of them are just genuine foreign people who basically they want a new life, so they'll come and they'll fight for the French Foreign Legion. I think it's 3 years of service, and after 3 years of service they can then apply for citizenship, well, French citizenship. But it's basically the French Foreign Legion will take on criminals, or they're supposedly wouldn't ask about a criminal record, so they'll just take anyone on. If somebody wants to join the French Foreign Legion, they'll take them in for a minimum of 3 years service. So they don't do a background check, or they never used to. When the unit was first created. But I do believe modern day French Foreign Legion soldiers are background checked. So you probably have to do a little bit of research on that. Another point to note about becoming a citizen of France, if you were part of the French Foreign Legion, is that if you were fighting as the French Foreign Legion unit and you were injured in battle, you could then apply to become a citizen. So even if you started and you'd done your basic training and you went into your first battle, if you were injured on your first battle, you could apply for being a citizen, I believe, because if you spilt your blood fighting for France, they said that entitles that person to apply for citizenship because you're fighting for France. So if you fight for France, basically, if you give your blood for France, you can become a citizen. But whereas most armies around the world, you have to swear allegiance to the country that you're fighting for. So if you're a British soldier or an American soldier or any soldier, you're a citizen of that country, and you want to go into your nation's army, you have to swear allegiance to your nation. But any foreigner who joins the French Foreign Legion will not swear allegiance to France, but they're made to swear allegiance to the French Foreign Legion. So basically, if a criminal comes and fights for the French Foreign Legion, they'll fight for their comrades, but they won't necessarily fight for the country. They just want an easy way out. That's a lot of the reasons why people go and join the French Foreign Legion. But obviously, if you do your minimum service and you spill your blood for the French Foreign Legion, that entices you to become a citizen of France. Anyway, let's get into some of the other points of the Legion. So the French Foreign Legion was formed in 1831, and there was two reasons for the creation of the unit. One reason was that France was suffering from loads of foreign refugees coming into the country, and they didn't have a place for these refugees. The second reason is that the French army had dwindling numbers, so they needed to find a way to bolster the French army's ranks. So King Louis Philippe of France issued an order to create a unit consisting of foreigners run by French officers, and so this would solve two problems: reduce the influx of foreigners, partly by thinning them out if they get killed in battle, and also it bolsters the French army's ranks. So all in all, it was a good idea. So one of the biggest problems in the French Foreign Legion is that all the foreigners will speak different languages. So you can have a French officer, his obviously native language would be French, and they might speak one or two other languages, but imagine having men under your command who don't speak any of the languages you do. So you have to keep these guys fit, you have to give them military training, and provide medical aid to them. It's obviously a crazy situation to be in, and trying to get all these guys, if they are criminals, if they are guys who have a low IQ, trying to teach them French or a common language, it must have been quite a nightmare for these French officers. So try and imagine being a young French officer and given a command of some foreign troops. So it's bad enough that they can't speak your language, but trying to teach them even how to tie their shoelaces or fire a gun or even when dinner time is, it's not going to be a good. These young French officers aren't going to have a good time. Okay, so I'm going to run off a list now of some of the places and times when the Foreign Legion was deployed and was in battle. So they were first deployed in the early 1830s to Algeria. They then was deployed to the First Carlist War, which was the mid-1830s, so 1836 to 1837. Then in 1849 they went back to Algeria. So after the Algerian War, they took part in the Crimean War, which was mid-1850s, so 1854 to 1855. Then they had the Italian campaign, which was 1859. Then after the Italian campaign, they took part in the Mexican campaign, which was mid-1860s, so the first deployment was 1863. Then they had 64 to 65 in the siege of Oaxaca, I think that's how it's spelt. After that they moved on to the Franco-Prussian War. Then after that they had the Sino-French War, which was early 1880s, so 1882, then 1885. Then we have the First World War, which was so it was 1915 was the First World War they took part in. Then they had the Rif War, which was 1925. Then they had the Second World War, and then they had the Indochina War. So I will make a separate video on each of these battles, engagements, deployments, wars, whatever you want to call them. So that'll be for another video. Okay, I'm going to tell you a little story now about a Foreign Legion soldier on how he came about joining the Legion and how he come to his death. His name is Francis Faber, and he was one of the first foreigners to win the Tour de France in 1909. He was a professional cyclist and won 27 races. Faber joined the Legion as soon as he heard that the First World War had broken out. He was assigned to the 2nd Marching Regiment of the 1st Foreign Regiment. On the very first day of the Battle of Artois, Faber received a telegram. He had news saying that his wife had given birth to his daughter. Hearing the news, he jumped for joy, cheering, and he got out of the trench. His fellow soldiers watched him in amazement, seeing how happy he was from hearing the news. He was then struck by a German bullet as he left the trench. He died as a French Foreign Legion soldier fighting for his country. Although the story of Faber is very sad, I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you would like more videos, please hit the subscribe button, and if you liked it, please give me a like. Thank you.